Avalos in Group 8. We are discussing the research paper Tarsal, Reconciling Scheduling Speed and Quality in Large Shared Clusters. So with centralized scheduling, such as Quasar and sample-based scheduling, such as Sparrow, these are two scheduling algorithms that can be employed to solve our problem of hosting multiple different applications while maintaining efficiency. So with these two methods, they will greatly impact the data center and use more resources and schedule tasks more responsibly. However, there are some major drawbacks depending on which scheduling implementation you use. So some issues with centralized scheduling is that it includes having a high latency with overheads. There's this scalability bottleneck due to the single decision making entity limiting throughput. There's poor responsiveness due to high workloads, and there'll be delays. The delays will affect the quality of service guarantees in resource allocation. For sample-based scheduling, there's low latency and high throughput decision. It will ignore resource heterogeneity, which will negatively impact the performance and resource allocation. It will also struggle with performance predictability when it comes time to process high loads. Right. So just the impact of poor scheduling. So assembly-based schedulers are sensitive to the poor selection of resources. They're more focused on speed and ignores the critical performance resources, degrading the performance, as discussed in the last slide. And centralized schedulers, they try to find the highest quality placement and are penalized by scheduling overhead, creating delays. And as we saw, Tarsal is the best case where we can schedule short, long, and medium tasks closest to the ideal performance while finding the highest quality places. Um, so, um, yeah. So the promise for Tarsal. So as we will see, with Tarsal, there are certain promises it makes when implemented in a cloud computing environment. So it will reduce the performance lag and it improves the predictability of applications. Um, it achieves low latency, high quality scheduling, and the ability to scale effectively into multiple large heterogeneous clusters under diverse workloads. The solution combines the best of both sample-based and scheduling, sample-based scheduling and centralized scheduling. It is incremental yet meaningful advancement because it builds off Sparrow, which is more like a fast and dumb um, scheduler, and Quasar, which is like a smart but a slow decision like scheduler. So it is not really a new architecture, but refines the existing techniques to perform well in a heterogeneous high load environment. So, um, yeah, so the designer main idea for the interference and aware profiling. So, um, right. Um, so Tarsal models interference sensitivity using the 10-dimensional vector to detail any job pressure on the shared resources. So, the closer the resource is to the beginning of the rate equation, the more resource intensive the task is. So C1 will be like more resource intensive than C3. Below is a vector encoded with the order sustaining scheme. So in the order sustaining scheme, uh, the closer the weight of the equation is to 1, the more resource intensive the job is, uh, and that it demands more resources, meaning that it will need to be scheduled to the resource unit that wisely, and that its performance will depend on the scheduling decision. So sample size versus cluster load. When cluster load increase, when cluster loads increase, there is less high quality resources available. So Tarsal will increase its sample size um, in order to maintain a high chance of selecting the proper resource unit. Um, Statistically looking at this, we see that the resource cumulative distribution function on D, um, which is the uniform distribution of quality after sampling. As the cluster utilization increases, the number of high quality or most compatible resources units drop. So in order for the best performance, um, the closer utilization rises and gets closer to 1, um, which is the ideal performance. So Tarsal must adapt the sample size to the closest curve on TW. Um, and in this case, the target job quality threshold is 0.92, which is pretty optimal. Um, yeah, so as you see in the graph here, we saw that at D equals 0.92, at uh, R equals 32. So R must be greater than or equal to 82 to push below 10 to the negative third. So the need for emission control. So in our activity schedule algorithm shown on the graph to the right, there's an X in already allocated resource units. Um, the which yeah so and The stripe resource units are sample candidates for a task. In this case, R equals 4 for a task. The solid black resource units, such as RUA and RUB, in the top right scheduler picture, are the selected units to the new job. So after this marking or sampling is done, the scheduler will then assign the best quality resource units, or the resource units that are marked in black, considering the job's structure and preferences for resources. There's also awareness sampling, when admission control will take into account performance benefits for tasks that need cache sharing, data locality, or intertask communication overhead, and assigning resources to certain jobs. So for our evaluation, in evaluating tarsal, so there's main results for some key areas. We found that there were some features of tarsal that make it very enticing to implement in cloud development. So the sampling size is typically 8, which is good for high and low cluster loads and provides high quality scheduling decisions. The number of scheduling agents is decreased in tarsal when compared to Sparrow, which needs 10 agents to get a fair comparison to tarsal. The decreased number of scheduling agents reduces overhead and complexity when fulfilling the needs for complex workloads. In cluster loads, with smarter sampling and emission control, the average response time will be constant for tarsal until loads are over 85%. In task duration, the response times will be low, ranging anywhere from 10 milliseconds to 600 milliseconds for average and 95th percentile tasks. And Tarsal also features priority-based task execution, where the response time is reduced for any task with priorities. So for the Tarsal performance comparison, so seeing the graphs to the right, Tarsal was compared to sample-based and centralized scheduling in the batch with 7,200 jobs. The graph to the top right shows a significant decrease in scheduling time with decreased overhead. Centralized timing caused a 1-second addition compared to Tarsal that only added 150 milliseconds onto workloads. So if you see the graph to the right, the red line shows the centralized scheduling time and versus the tarsal, which is almost like opposite. So, and the green is the sampling for tarsal, where the blue is the queuing time. So definitely a huge increase there. We're of centralized versus tarsal with the overhead timing. The sample-based and sample-based scheduling to the graph on the lower right of the slide, we are comparing on the left graph sample-based scheduling to the graph on the right, which is parcel scheduling. So if the graph shows more region of darker blue towards the bottom of the graph, then the resource quality is worse off. The quality of cores for sample-based scheduling was less than 0.4 at times when Tarsal only had 18% of cores less than 0.9. And in conclusion, for the evaluation, Tarsal is able to complete 4 times as many jobs than sample-based scheduling and 2 times as many jobs in centralized scheduling. Yeah. If you have any questions, put it in the comments below. But it was very interesting reading this paper and learning about Tarsal with respect to just scheduling methodologies. It was very fascinating just to learn about the different methodologies and why Tarsal can sometimes be superior. Yeah. Thank you.